Right now it's a little past 6. The sunrise is supposed to happen in about 10 minutes. Today I got up at 4:15. I needed to get here in time for the sunrise. Usually at this time I'd be at the gym, at least according to my perfect routine that I've thought up. In reality, a lot of days I would still be in bed for another 4 hours, if not more. You know, I've planned to record this for a pretty long time. Okay, the first time that the idea came to my mind was, I think, maybe a month ago, in this like exact form. But the general idea of wanting to get out and record something and say something to camera and then upload it and, you know, share it, I guess. Yeah, that was a thing for ages. The first time I came up with that idea, well, it had to be years ago, but depending on the clarity, again, it could be it could be 15, 10, or 2 years ago. There was a time, I believe last winter, when I came here, it was much colder. It was like, I think minus 10, minus 15. Right now it's 11. It's gonna get warmer. I'm fine right now, but that time it was horrible. It was like minus 15. I didn't know what I wanted to say. I still don't know what I want to say, but it was much worse then. And I pulled out all the gear. Right now the camera is mounted on like a single clamp, which it doesn't sound very secure, but I'm honestly surprised how well it works. Back then it was, you know, I set up a tripod. I had my Zoom F3, my mobile recorder with me, with like a proper dynamic mic that I could hold right here, so even if a train was coming by, it probably wouldn't be that big of a deal, because I would still pick up the voice first and then everything else second. Right now it's very different. Things have changed. The gear I have available has changed, which honestly is not that big of a deal, but my approach and philosophy, I guess, has changed also. So now it's a much lighter setup. I just have a shotgun mic on the camera, which means that the audio will be inevitably pretty shit. I would like it to be good, just like I would like the video to have no grain in it, but it undoubtedly will, because I have a cropped sensor camera with a pretty entry-level lens, right? And that doesn't really matter. Neither does it matter that every 5 seconds a train comes through and I need to stop my monologue or continue through it and then risk the audio getting lost. Those things don't matter. What matters is, finally, after all that time, I got up, right? I came here and I started recording, right? Yesterday, you know, it was my last day of prep time, and I was scared. I still am, actually, but my main issue was I wasn't used to speaking to camera, and I knew it, right? There's a lot of things that you can practice. There are some things which you can't really practice in the real sense. I couldn't practice getting my thoughts out, right? I had some experience talking in front of people, but surprisingly, you know, being able to talk in front of people doesn't really help you all that much when you're speaking to a camera, right? Funnily enough, speaking in front of a real audience is easier, at least if you have experience, because obviously, you know, back in first grade or whenever we had our first presentations, yeah, that was scary. It was probably scarier than this is right now, but it's been a long time since then, so I don't worry about it as much anymore. I actually came to love presentations. I love being in front of people and being able to share something and get questions and answer them to the best of my ability. I like that now, even though I probably hated it back then. And maybe I'll come to love this as well, right? Right now, I'm not confident. I haven't spoken to the camera, you know, in a way like this ever, and I don't know how well it'll come out. It'll probably come out pretty shit, but that's okay, because this is not the last time I do this. There's gonna be many more to come. or trains to come. This is probably not a good spot to record like daily because I don't think I can cope with that much extra outside noise, and for now I don't really have the right audio setup to cope with it either. Maybe someday I will. I looked into it already. Yeah, so what actually matters is getting up and doing the thing, right? One of the better philosophies when it comes to this sort of thing is make it first, make it good second, right? Instead of worrying how good it will come out, you should worry about actually having it come out at all. If there is any way that you can improve it after the fact, great, do that. Obviously, don't skip out on it. But if you're just gonna put it off endlessly put it off, just because it's not perfect yet, well, you're probably not gonna make anything at all. The list of things getting in the way of me making this perfect, right, is very long. Speaking to camera, big point. Knowledge base, right? For all of the improvisation, you need to have something to improvise off, right? And for me, like I feel relatively confident I could have an interesting take on a lot of things in the world, but it's never enough, really. You always need more information. You can always be more interesting, more nuanced, right? Or you can always be thinner, right? Lift heavier weights, which is, a joke. It's a parody, but it's also very true. It can always be better. The question is, how much better can it be? We'll actually do it. So, speaking to camera, audio, knowledge base, whatever. A video is a good example. I have a relatively cheap, I would say pretty entry-level camera. It's a Fujifilm XS10. I bought it used from Romania, which is very funny. It was honestly kind of astonishing how many used films were available from that market. But the point is, I got it used. This was the best thing I could afford at the time. Very cheap used. I got first 7 artisans lens, which is about as entry level as you can get. I wouldn't even say it's a functional lens, as it lacks things like out of focus. It has very, very specific parameters, I would say. Very good for what I do. But it was a lens. And then I moved on to my current one, which is much more versatile. It's definitely a functional lens, I think. It's a very good lens, in fact, but it is still very cheap. It's a zoom 18 to 55.8 for f-stop. But either way, it's a cropped sensor with a relatively slow lens, 2.8, and the widest is not optimal for a lot of shooting conditions. Things like the city at night and concerts where you have a very high dynamic range. You need to capture both the very bright whites and highlights, and you need to capture the shadows, which is going to be most of the scene. You don't want grain, you don't want stuff like that. I've shot both with varying levels of success, and it is a tough setup to make something really, really good with, right? The cropped sensor, not great. It caps out at 30 FPS, not great. Can work with it. You need to take the shutter speed way down to get something actually bright enough, without taking the ISO to the moon, right? It's a cropped sensor camera. The lens is relatively slow. It's not exactly fit for my purposes. But it was also cheap enough for me to buy it, which, big upside. And for the price, it definitely performs. It does a lot of things really well. It's versatile, and it's pretty high quality, from my perspective at least. So, speaking to camera, audio, video, improvisation, knowledge base, editing, I would also say VFX is a separate thing. And we can add, as many things as we want to that list. The list's gonna just keep growing. Nothing's gonna stop it. And the more time passes, the more things you realize are getting in your way, and the less you're actually gonna be able to do. You're gonna get further and further away from getting the stuff done that you wanted to do in the first place, and you're gonna run out of time, right? You only have so much of it, and if all of it is spent, making something that never happened slightly better, you're gonna run out, right? It's just bad spending policy, you could say. My microphone, right? It was about $100, right? Which is not cheap. It's definitely a lot of money, but for what it is, it's also not very great. It's a shotgun microphone. Works well when you have decent conditions, right? When you're on a walk in a forest, right, and you want to capture the ambience, and you don't really need to worry about external audio contamination. But I've also worked in like a lot of professional and semi-professional audio settings, and it's definitely not up to standard, I would say. One of the first things you learn about microphones is, well, distance is king. You need to have your microphone as close as possible, because the way that the waves travel it's ruthless. If you have a lot of distance between what you want to capture and your microphone, you're most likely going to come into a lot of interference. It's going to be much harder to pick out the actual elements you want. So this is not great. I had to lower the ISO because the exposure was getting way too bright. I was about to blow out all of the highlights with a whole list of things that are not perfect, that could go wrong, that might make me look inexperienced or unskilled. Right? It is very easy to give up or put it off, or say, I'll do it later. It's true. It's not gonna come out perfect, right? You are gonna look inexperienced if you don't have experience, right? There are some skills you don't have yet, and even if you do have skills, let's look at another weakness of mine. I don't like the way I look on camera. I wouldn't call my condition insecurity. I'm relatively secure in what I am. I know how I look, and I made peace with it, if that's a good way to put it. But my face is definitely not my strong point, you could say, or it's not a selling point, I guess you could say. A lot of this is not really down to my actual facial aesthetics. A lot of it is down to me straight up just being fat, right? Being overweight and not very well kept. So not only do I have no experience speaking publicly or speaking to camera, but also, even if I had that experience, I would have to compensate for this weakness, I would say. But it's not about those barriers, it's not about those excuses, it's not about those weaknesses. In the end, it is about what you want to do and how you'll do it. If you want to get somewhere in life, odds are you're going to have to take a lot of actions, a lot of them uncomfortable. But eventually everybody has to grow up and actually do the thing they're supposed to do. So I made a simple challenge to myself. I'll just get up and do it. I put a deadline, I sketched out an idea, and it wasn't a perfect idea. It's nowhere near perfect. But it's better than doing nothing in the end. And so I did. I got up. Usually at this time I'd be at the gym. Today I'm not, because I'm recording this. I've spent so much time on doing something so simple that now, the battery is running out, the sun has come up. So what I'll do now is go home, transfer all the files from the SD card, which will take a while. There's not an issue, because I can just go to the gym in the morning. I'll go to the gym, I'll get my workout in, I'll come back home, maybe take a nap, I don't know, then we'll see about that one. And I'll get to work, right? I'll do my best. I'll try to edit down this absolute abomination of a recording, with so many interruptions, so many different side effects of unstructured voice recording. And hopefully the next one is going to be slightly better. Well, first this one needs to see the light.